Hey guys, Dean here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the top habits and belief systems that are keeping you poor and keeping you from making a lot of money. These are typical beliefs that we're instilled in via school and just generally through society that keep us in a very small mind frame that many people are actually limited by, and it impedes on their success in the long term. These are reasons which you may not be reaching your full potential, or you may not be making any money because you believe in these or you have these certain traits, and it's very important to analyze them and switch them on the head. This video is inspired by a video by Alex Hormozi. I really liked his video. I'm going to link that in the description down below. I definitely give that one a watch. So the first one is you wait too long to start. So it's really important when starting any kind of endeavor, be it some kind of business, be pursuing a hobby, or reaching some kind of goal which you've set for yourself, that you start today and you don't start tomorrow. There's countless times when we tell ourselves, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. But tomorrow, let's be honest, never actually really comes, does it? And if you keep saying you're going to do it tomorrow is just going to get pushed on to the next day and the next day, and it's been a few months and years and nothing is going to move along, okay? And everybody does this. We prioritize certain goals which are more important, and then we put the goals which are lesser on the back burner, and then we never actually reach those goals, or it takes us longer to actually achieve them. Even if you're actually doing something purposeful, you sometimes put things in a hierarchy of importance, and then some things you just never get around to doing. Stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect situation will actually never come. There never will be the perfect situation. There's always going to be something playing against you, or something which is going to hold you off from doing it. The next one is reading and consuming but not acting. Now, this is a huge thing in the modern day because you see so many people on social media saying, I've just read 5 books. I'm going to read 50 books this year. I'm on to my 10th book and it's only been 6 months out of the year. But the material they're actually reading from the books and learning, what of this material are they actually applying for some kind of monetary purpose or gain in their actual life? Or if it's a different category of books, maybe for personal development, are they actually taking on these points and applying them to make their own life better? In the long run, some people do, but for the most part, most people just read it and forget it, okay? And it's the same with educational content on YouTube. So content in the financial and business space, like what this video is about, a lot of people watch a ton of content, and 99% of people will consume the content, but they'll get kind of like a self-belief system in their brain, like a false reward, that they will feel great in consuming that material, like they've done something great for the day, but they're not going to apply it and benefit from the knowledge. So they are becoming knowledgeable, but they're not actually using it to their own benefit. So to be honest, it's actually to their own detriment at that point, because they're wasting so many hours consuming content that they're not actually making action. And sometimes the hours which they consume the content, if they were to not even watch it at all, they could just make the mistakes for themselves, learn from them, but actually still make some kind of progress towards what they want to do. So reading tons of books but not actually using the knowledge to your own purpose, or watching tons of videos about business or personal development or even weight loss and not doing anything about it, usually keeps a lot of people back, because a lot of people actually do take the first steps in learning, but they don't take the first steps in doing. And this is a huge thing which I see a lot of people fall into. This is a big trap of educational content on YouTube or just in general. The next one is listening to poor people. Okay, now this sounds terrible to say, and coming from originally a poor background myself, I feel like I can actually make this point, right? So taking advice from people who are not where you want to be, or don't actually know any better than maybe you do, is kind of another trap in itself, because there's so many people who will offer advice in this world, but you really need to cherry pick and see which actual advice is worth taking. There's a lot of people who don't really know how to manage the money, or a lot of people who give you certain advice but don't actually enact on the advice themselves, and these are people you just don't want to listen to. Obviously, some people might actually regurgitate good advice even if they're not in a good situation that they heard elsewhere, because they may not be applying it themselves, but it may still be quality information. But for the most part, if someone isn't actually living the life you want to live, don't take advice on how to reach that goal, because if they can't even reach it themselves or don't know how, it's probably not the best advice that you should think about taking, right? It's just common sense. But there is also an explanation to be made about this, because some of the best trainers, for an example, fitness and bodybuilding, are actually out of shape, but they get people in the best shape of their lives. So it's really important to think about people's background and kind of think about, do they actually have the knowledge and experience to talk about this? That's something to inspect and take into mind. They can kind of play mind games on you. It's really hard to actually tell if someone is worth listening to in that regard. The next one is not having a like-minded circle. You've heard this thousands of times. You don't need me to repeat on it or explain the point, but most likely you've heard of the point. You are the product of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So the 5 people which you interact with the most, who you're around the most throughout the day, you're going to be the product of those people based on interactions with those people and being situated around them. This is important because think about the 5 people you speak to every single day who are close to you that you interact with, do they talk about the same things that you're interested in? Do they talk about the same things which your goals are based on? Probably not. A lot of us interact with a lot of people who just speak drivel and just mindless garbage for the most part. For an example, I don't like consuming the news whatsoever, and 80% of the information on politics or things regarding that I don't actually care about. And if I was to interact with a lot of friends who talked about those topics, I probably wouldn't care and they'd go in one ear and out the other. Of course, I do have friends who like those topics, but they've been my friends for a very long time, so it's worth the trade to actually talk about that stuff. But for the most part, if you're interacting with people who talk about things that you either don't care about or things which are not based on your focus, then you should think about creating a strong friend group or procuring a good circle who can help you propel in the right direction by actually having a passion in the same subject, right? So not having friends who think about business, personal growth, or who actually want to make money and they talk about random things like what was on television the last night, which is not really beneficial conversation, is also holding you back, because it's just like having a mentor in real life. If you have a mentor who's a millionaire who teaches you some of the core skills and traits on how to get there yourself, you're probably going to be a millionaire. It's just a matter of time. If you're talking to someone about football every day, well, it's going to be a longer process for you to get there because you're going to have to do it all yourself, right? So it's important to procure your friendship circles and your business circles and try to surround yourself with valuable people. Then the next one is quitting early after failure. You can try once, maybe you even try twice, and then you quit. But reaching failure is usually a natural part of business or a natural part of actually trying to get money. There's so many countless methods of trying to make money that I found online, and a lot of them were blunders and I didn't actually get any success with them, right? But it's very easy to get disheartened after something fails, especially when it repeatedly fails. We've all been through the exact same situation when we're trying to look for the next big idea. Trial and error consistently is what it takes to finally get success, but more so trial and error consistently in one thing. It's the same for any business. You've got to kind of expect maybe 1 to 2 years minimum until it actually takes off the ground. This could be a YouTube channel, this could be some kind of business in the e-com space. It really doesn't matter. It really takes those hours and time to put into it for any kind of payoff on it. But the return on the investment of your time is usually going to be very big in the long run. The next one is blaming the world for your problems. So this is a very big one in just general society. I think most people in the world actually do this. They blame the government, they blame the society, the world in general, the situation that we're all living in, economic situations, maybe people pulling the strings in the background. Everyone gets a different hand in life. There's a different hand that you're dealt in life. If you're dealt a poor hand, if you were born poor, if you're born into a poor situation, it doesn't mean that you have to be stuck in that situation forever. Maybe you're in debt from taking out too many loans, or maybe you have a terrible job. This is all very short-term things and you can't get out of them even if everything is piling on top of you to prevent you from doing so. It's important to take the action to reverse it and make sure it's not a forever situation. Now, a lot of people do get born into rich families, but then they don't really understand the value out of money, and they may be in a lot easier of a position in life. I prefer to start from a point where I didn't have any money and then go to actually have money, because then I know how to manage it and I know the value of it efficiently. So if you are dealt a poor hand, it can actually benefit you in the long run. The next one is waiting for someone to save you, okay? So every time when we've reached some kind of low point in life, be it some kind of depression, if something's happened to us, anything bad that happens in life, it's very easy to fall into a deep hole regarding it. This is usually kind of like a hostage mentality situation, and I think we've all reached that point. It's a general thing which a lot of people are guilty for, and we kind of wait for someone to save us or some kind of easy solution to be presented to us. But the honest, dark truth of the situation is when you do reach some kind of rock bottom, you'll realize that nobody is actually coming to save you and nobody is actually going to help you. The only way to climb out of any bad situation or climb yourself out of a hole that you've digged yourself into or you've fallen into is actually to try and get out yourself. Now, this is a very dark realization we need to learn in life, but it's the same with business and money making. If we have a terrible job we don't like, we can try and create some kind of business or side hustle on the side to then be able to quit our job. It just takes time and investment and focus to do so. If we don't have a job, then it's important that we either look for a job or try to start some kind of business on the side. Then we have not trusting your gut. So this is a really important point, which I think a lot of people need to drill into their mind, okay? Because I think a lot of people are more used to listening to everyone else in the world rather than listen to the self. And we've kind of come into this society where we almost don't trust our own judgment because we have this feedback coming from multiple angles of listening to other people, and we're not sure if we should listen to their advice or listen to what we think is actually best for ourselves, right? So accepting other people's ideal of you, if someone says you'll fail or doesn't believe in you, you then accept it as a reality reality and perception is reality. So then usually you will end up actually failing, right? For an example, when I was starting off YouTube, I just finished college and I had to think about what was my next job going to be, what were the steps I was going to take next, and I wasn't exactly sure what to do. I didn't want to work in an office job because I'd had some work experience there. I'd also worked for the family business, and I wasn't really passionate about just having a normal mundane job because I just wanted to make videos or just do other things for fun, right? Now, nobody believed that it would be successful. Everybody told me that there wasn't really any value in it, and also back then, just a few years ago, it wasn't really a big thing to actually make money as a creator or through video online. And I just done film school, and I was trying to think of a way where I could take on that knowledge and then create it as kind of like a monetized passion. I obviously didn't want to get a job, and I just stuck it out and I listened to my gut, and now we nearly have 100,000 subscribers on the main channel. So it's really important when you do have an idea or a concept that you think can be successful in the long run, even if you are reaching a ton of failure throughout time and it takes a few years, always listen to your own internal voice, because in the long run, most of the time, that's going to be the one which will make you reach some kind of success. Remember, most people you see online on the internet, or most rich business people, they were told by their teachers that they were going to be some kind of failure, or they were told to live this very linear, normal life, which they were presented to with this typical path that everyone's told, but they didn't listen to it and they reached mega success that a lot of us would obviously dream to reach. The next one is you avoid discomfort. So you avoid discomfort. This could be staying in a job which you really don't like because it's safe and it's comfortable and you think that you won't get laid off, you won't lose your job, so it's easy just to coast and stay in something which you don't enjoy. Now, of course, there is a culture around the 9 to 5 lifestyle being terrible, and if this is something you actually genuinely enjoy, then this doesn't apply for you, right? Because not everyone wants to have a business. This could be applied to other things. You keep eating an excess of junk food, which a lot of us do. I have been guilty for this quite a lot of times, and because it's comfortable, you keep doing it. You don't get out of that safe place, okay? Now, this also applied to me when I was in my late teenage years. I had really bad social anxiety, and the way that I actually completely got over that and got out of that situation is I just threw myself in the most uncomfortable situations. So I would just go to really overcrowded places and just interact with people. I would go to huge supermarkets or huge shopping malls, places like that with my friends. And eventually I also traveled to many countries in Europe, and I also went and traveled alone specifically without any friends. And that meant that I had to do everything myself. I had to interact with different people, obviously, to survive and buy food, to find directions. And you really quickly get out of that situation because it's so uncomfortable. You force yourself and you learn new skills, right? So it's the same with making money in business. You need to just get out of those comfortable scenarios. Always face things head on and purposely throw yourself out of your comfort zone if you want to grow. And then when you start to get comfortable again, try and throw yourself out of your comfort zone again and repeat the process. Because from what I found, it does actually work, and it does also allow you to have a lot of self-growth. Another one is shiny object syndrome. Now, this is due to the traffic which we have nowadays from social media. Our brains are overpowered by an influx of just too much information. This means that the next big concept or scheme is pushed to us in a new video, in a new Instagram post, on our Facebook wall. It's really hard to tune out from all this noise, and it allows us to just consume, and then try so many different things without focusing on one thing. And this is so easy to do because social media has algorithms that just keep throwing new things in our face to keep our attention fixated on their platforms, and it shifts our concentration away from important things. And if there's a new thing which comes out the next day saying I could get super rich, maybe I think it's better than what I'm already doing, and I'll drift off and start doing that instead, right? And you can see where this can become a cycle which gets really bad. And I think this is personally just because of social media, and information is so freely available now that everything's just given to us on a platter, and it's really important to keep focus, okay? And that's really hard, and I think most people are actually struggling with that. There is actually apps for your web browsers and for your phone, I think, where you can actually just disable social media feeds entirely so you don't get all this clutter every single day, which I think can actually be a really beneficial choice to make. Although for me personally, I don't do this because I like to actually look at what's out there on platforms like YouTube. Just use it for research. I think it's really important to create your content strategy. But in general, social media platforms that you're not posting content on, disabling the social feeds can be really good for your mental health as well. Then you also break promises both to yourself and also to other people. So this can obviously be applied to many different things. So you promise yourself that you'll start tomorrow, just like the first point we made in this video, and then you never do, and then you lose respect for yourself in doing so, and the confidence in your ability also wanes too because of this. Or you promise your friends or your business partners, for an example, that you'll move forward with an idea idea, or you say that you'll show up and then you don't, and you then stay in the same position too. There's always people who don't show up for social events or don't show up to things when they make a promise or say they'll do so. Everyone loses respect for them. They don't get asked again, okay? It's the same with business. People lose confidence and faith in them. And it's also important not to say something to yourself, which then you don't live up to because you lose confidence and faith in yourself. And that's also a big important thing to do as well, which is why when you always set goals for yourself, you always need to make sure you achieve them or make them a priority to then achieve the following year. Another one that I see very commonly is you care too much about what people think of you and just generally other people's opinions of you. And this is a really widespread thing, not just with social media, with social status, but just in general life. People care a lot about their social image in their communities. They care a lot about what their friends and other people think of them. They think if something bad goes wrong, or if they do something, it'll ruin their social image and their life is over, or if they do something embarrassing, or if they put themselves out there, it'll be detriment to them and something negative will happen. This is just not the case, guys. It's a really silly train of thought, and it really takes you off the focus of doing anything productive or trying to make some kind of play in life or take a risk and reach some kind of success or fulfillment in anything, okay? I've seen this in personal situations, friendships, relationship situations, and business. It's all the same. It's just a general trait. So you don't want to show your face online, for an example, to make videos or maybe put yourself out there to start a brand or a business when you're taking off in that phase at the start when you're beginning something, and take a risk because you care too much about what other people think of you to protect your social image. The truth is, nobody really cares if you want to start a business, if you want to sell crafts or put your passion out there, or if you want to start a little business on Etsy and post it on Facebook, for an example. Nobody actually really cares, and they probably won't judge you for doing so. And even if they did judge you and they made like a passing joke, they'll just forget about it the next day, or they'll get bored of doing so and it'll just pass, and then what you're doing will become the new norm. Nobody really cares what you're doing. They're mainly focused on their own life. They mainly just care about themselves. That will basically become a realization as you age, okay? And a lot of people need to get out of the childish mindset, looking outward and caring about other people's opinions of them, because it really does hold you back. Think of it like this: when you get to retirement age, let's just say you're 70 years old, most of those people are nowhere to be seen. Maybe you've moved to another place, maybe they've all died already from their own poor choices in life, but the only thing that's going to be left over is your own self-regret. So that's a really important thing, which I think puts it into perspective and wakes people up if you just listen to that. So stop looking for approval or social points and get to work. The next one is you care too much about looking rich instead of actually being rich. And so many people are guilty for this. For an example, I bought some really nice Air Jordan shoes a few years ago, kind of like a gift to myself. They were Air Jordan 1s, and that was before I was actually making a decent amount of money, okay? So I just bought those in my late teenage years because I really liked them, or when I was like 20 years old, and I still have them. They're not in very good quality. They're kind of falling apart right now. They're probably actually worth more than I paid for them though, because they were a rare item. But that's just an example. So if you spend your money on the latest Nike drops, the latest Adidas drops, wear expensive gold chains, or just buy extortionately priced streetwear, you would probably fall in this category, right? Unless you're actually rich and you can afford to buy as much as you want, then who cares? If you have an average salary and you're buying basically your whole paycheck on designer stuff to show off on Instagram, instead of investing in it or investing in yourself or your business, then you probably fall into this category, okay? Now, if you're young, it's very easy to fall into the social pressure of doing so, or if you want to have cool stuff with your friends. I mean, it's a very common thing to do, okay? So don't feel too bad about doing it. But if you look rich and wear actually genuinely rich items that cost a lot of money, then to some kind of degree, I guess you are rich, but most of these items devalue over time unless they're like a rare drop that you can resell later, right? So if you're wearing a lot of items which cost a lot of money, but probably don't cost much to sell, and your bank balance is in the minus or just at an average amount, and you spend anything that comes in instead of using it as some kind of leverage to grow your net worth, then this is a big mistake as well. Now, it's normal to do this when you're young, but if you're still doing these in your late 20s or your 30s and wasting all your money on the new designer drops, then it's really just holding you back, let's be honest. The next one is following the crowd. So this is herd mentality at its finest, okay? For those people who are dreaming of being in that 1%, trying to get rich, trying to make a lot of money, or have some kind of successful business, if you follow 99% of people and follow what those 99% of people do, expect to get results of the 99% of people that you're following instead of the results of the 1%, right? I mean, that's just common sense. The 99% of people that you're following are average people. So following what they do isn't going to give you results that are more than average or greater than average. You could be living the typical life which is outlined to you in school, the life that will most likely keep you poor. So following this life trajectory that the government tell you what to do, for the most part, is always going to keep you in a rut, okay? Because the system is basically designed for you to fail if you follow the normal typical path. Another one is you are replaceable. So this is mainly being replaceable in the workforce if you have some kind of job. The reason why you could be replaceable, and I don't mean as a person, I don't mean personally, this isn't a personal attack. Try and detach your feelings from this. This is mainly to do with work. You haven't learned a marketable skill that is rare or more in demand, so you are more replaceable in the workforce. So when people are made redundant, or if there's a big layoff phase and your job hangs in the balance, this is because you haven't learned some kind of rare skill that makes you less replaceable, which means when that cutting phase comes to try and cull all of the people that need to be expeded from the workforce when the business isn't doing well, or maybe during a recession like now, you are one of the first people to go because you are very replaceable. You might just be a customer support representative or something that a lot of people can typically do. You need to build up your value, okay? If this goes for you, then you need to try and make yourself scarce and acquire a high income skill or a marketable skill, which a lot of people will actually place more value on. And remember, when you always offer more value, you always earn more money in doing so, because that's the trade of value for money, okay? If you want to feel more secure in your job as well, if you're actually working for another company, you need to make sure that they can't replace you with someone else cheaper or replace you with someone else who just does exactly the same thing. Then we have not learning from your own mistakes. And so many people do this, okay? This could be that when you make a mistake in business and lose a ton of money, you repeat the same mistake over and over and go into financial ruin, which can sometimes be the steps to actually reach financial success. Sometimes you do need to repeatedly fail. There are things that you can learn from every single failure, so make sure it's a learning experience. Or maybe you interact with the same toxic people or people who have stabbed you in the back over and over and they keep doing it. These are people with the bad values or no remorse, and people which you definitely shouldn't be interacting with. The definition of insanity, a very popular phrase which you've probably heard, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a completely different result. So make sure to always learn from every single failure you make, and if you repeatedly fail, just make sure it's a learning experience to get value from that mistake. Then we have you don't actually leverage your own strengths. So if you fall into this category, you focus less on actually finding what you're good at or what your personal talents and strengths point to, and you focus on trying too hard to imitate others. You need to first find what works, and then what works, you need to double down on that and then consistently keep chipping away at it, okay? This basically means that you need to leverage your skills and your talents and focus what you're actually good at. Stop looking for some kind of copy and paste scheme or copying someone else in a completely different area that you have no purpose in emulating. Now, you can actually learn any skill. If you're interested in a certain area and you want to first learn it and then try and emulate it, then that's a completely different story. Try and focus on what has actually worked for you in the past so far that you know will consistently work for you personally again in the future, and keep building on that, because that's the best way to do it. Now, I always use YouTube as an example because it's the best from my personal experience, but for me in this situation, it would be if I had a successful video, I would then try and repeat that video again and try and remake it better, or make a video in the same topic which appeals to the same audience, which would usually always work. Then we have accept that you can actually be wrong. There's so many people where their pride gets in the way and they just can't accept they're wrong at anything, and this really holds them back in growth in literally every area in life, and it can be the same in business and making money, right? So many people ignore constructive criticism and they take it as more of an offense or a hostile attack, instead of actually thinking about it logically and using it to your advantage to actually build upon any kind of weakness that you have to then improve your strategy and skill set. I used to get a lot of YouTube comments where they definitely wouldn't be insults, and instead of just blocking them or replying to them with some kind of smart ass response, I would always take those words and think about, why are they saying these things? How can I actually improve the content? And it would actually improve the content. It improved my videos as I grew and listened to other people. It's always important to listen to other people. It's basically just like free market research if people are giving you feedback, especially people who are more successful than you giving you feedback. A few people who I know who are knowledgeable in different areas, I listen to those people too. I have friends who know a ton about crypto, a lot more than me, so I take on their advice in those fields, and it has worked for me in the past. There's people who know more about things in video games. There's people who know more about things in terms of investing strategies or social media, and I listen to them too. And a lot of people on YouTube who know more about these topics than me as well. So I always take on advice from other people, and it's really helped me grow. And the last one we're going to cover is you outlive your means. So this is probably the most straightforward one, the most obvious one in the entire video, which is why I've actually left it until last on the video. And this is for people who spend more money than they make, or they spend everything they make, okay? So it doesn't actually matter how rich you are. You could be a millionaire, but all of the money you make, if it just comes in and then it goes out, you can be poor. Why do you think that like such a high percentage of lottery winners always go broke within a few years? Because they have no money management skills or any kind of concept on how they can actually spend, save, and invest their money, because they've just been given it straight on without learning those fundamental teachings on how they can actually manage it. Okay, it's the same thing here. If you just keep spending your money as it comes, it's never going to go anywhere beneficial and you're always going to be in the same spot. Think about all those people who get so many promotions throughout the years as they climb a job ladder. They go from maybe making 20 to 40 to 60, maybe even 100k in the end, but they always keep progressively scaling up their lifestyle based on the more money they make, and they still just seem to be in the same situation even though you think that they'd be rich. So if you spend too much and you outlive your means, you're always going to stay poor. That's just such an obvious concept. So that's going to conclude this video on some of the most obvious traits and belief systems that people actually believe in and habits that people have that keeps them from making more money or keeps them from managing their money efficiently. And I think all of us will be guilty for at least a few of these on this list, and for most of the population I think a lot of people have been guilty of some of these too. So if you guys are falling into any of these traps, or if you're guilty for any of them, leave those in the comment section below. Tell us about your experience with any of these and tell us about your own personal beliefs. And also, if I missed any popular things on this list, why people stay poor or why they make bad money decisions, drop those in the comment section too. I'm sure I missed a ton of good ones from this video. Like I said in the intro, do click on the original video by Alex Hormozi, because that inspired me to actually make this, and I added a few of my own ones in here too, and my own personal experiences, because that's a great video which is worth a watch. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more business videos on the channel, and I'll catch you next time.